Hello there fellow webbers, this is Landroe of LandroeGaming bringing you a PvP video. And now, as anybody who has been following my channel will know, I put a little message out there the other day that the Olympics has overtaken my life. It's been fantastic to watch, and I haven't really done much yet. I certainly haven't had time to, between that and work, I haven't had time to make any videos. However, I entered a random BG and thought I'd show you the footage. I entered this BG a little bit late. It was already in progress, and first thing I'd done was stumble across this rather epic encounter on the roof of the Alliance flag room. I didn't really look at the makeup of this raid when I joined. I just wanted a bit of fun. In fact, it turns out I didn't even have my PvP UI set up. I was still in my PvE UI. No nameplates or anything like that, so it was a bit of an experience. A lot of my keybinds were messed up, and I was having to do some epic clicking. So yeah, it was fun. This priest, you know, wonderful addition to a raid team, BG team, I should say. The shields, of course, being very powerful in so much as they absorb damage, but also very powerful in so much as they reduce knockbacks and interrupts. So they don't reduce interrupts, they reduce knockbacks. So obviously if you put them on casters, it enables them to cast a little bit more effectively. I'm not quite sure what our flag carrier had done here. He sort of disappeared down into the I didn't know where he'd gone, and unfortunately he ended up perishing. But what this did enable me to do is find a little bit about my opponents. As you can see, this Death Knight plays Death Knight quite well, moving away to Death Grip me out of my power barrier and to nullify a little bit of my inner focus there. Obviously inner focus being making you immune to interrupts, so you want to use this if a melee is training you to not have to worry about the interrupt from such things as pummel and kick and mind freeze and things of that ilk. My little druid friend I made here, who I found out was a good player on the Alliance side, actually jumped down here, and I didn't think he realised there was somebody down there, so I obviously leap of faith him back up and will. The melees then can't train you. Disc priests have a big problem with being trained by melees. It's one of the reasons why mage rogue priest is so powerful, is you've got the peels of two very good peeling classes, CCs of a rogue and a mage, a second and none, because without that, disc priests are very susceptible to being trained, especially by melees. If a melee sits on a disc priest, eventually a kill will be scored. Yeah, you will need a peel. So if you've got somebody that's, you know, sort of semi-decent in your BG or in your team that can do peels, it makes the world of difference. And I sort of found this druid here who's quite good at his class, and as you'll see throughout the course of this video, he became my friend. And that's the good thing about these random BGs. It turns out this is kind of like a semi sort of pre-made on both sides. There was two factions who had quite a lot of people in, and I'm guessing it was either rated BG practice or a little bit of people queuing with their friends. But the team, I think it was from South Rang or Kazakh that we were facing against, obviously very skilled, and they'd obviously gone in with a trio or four melees, I should say. I think they've got a DK, Druid, Warrior and Enhancement Shaman, and they were obviously going around as a team and seeking to gank people. Interesting point of note here, I noticed that you know, these DKs and these Warriors were getting the sort of whirlwind effect that is more synonymous with Enhanced Shamans, and I was a little bit confused as to why they were doing this, and then I realised the Paladin on our team is actually running around with, I think it's Thunder Fury, which puts a sort of debuff on them. So I think it's a level 60 legendary. It's quite amusing to watch. The thing with going into a BG like this with random, and I didn't really have a chance to see who was who and whatever before you get that minute before the BG starts to see what's what. I didn't actually know who was sort of healing on our team or if we had any flag carriers, so I was kind of like playing. You know, it's just sort of thinking on my feet kind of thing, as well as my UI being all over the blooming place. As I stated before, it's primarily my PvE UI with Bartender. I don't normally use that for PvP because it's a little bit clunky for PvP. So I was trying to find all my keybinds and whatnot, and to utilise my class to the best of its ability. It took a little bit of getting used to. As you can see there, that's something that's interesting with mind control. I mind control the shaman to start with, and then the second attempt at mind control, it gets the DK to wasted interrupt. He actually hit mind freeze there. Now that's very important because thereafter, obviously, all your healing spells are free to be casted, and that's an interesting point with Disc Priests, is obviously having different schools, your Shadow and your Holy schools, or Holy / Disc, which are technically one school. If you get locked out of a healing spell, you can't cast your Disc spells, but with things like Mind Control and Mana Burn and Mind Spike, they're the kind of things that you want to be casting to force, interrupts if you can. Dispelling is a huge part of Priests. Obviously, the fact that you remove 2 beneficial spells or from a friend, and you can remove harmful 2 beneficial spells from a foe, as well as harmful spells off of allies. It makes the utility you've got very good. Disc are one of the very few healing classes that actually have 2 different types of dispel. The majority of other healing classes will have their healing spells, of course, remove everything within that school. So if, for example, I want to remove disease, I've got to cure disease. If I want to remove magic, I've got to remove magic. Most other healing classes actually have their what you would call cleanse or whatever, would remove the 2 types of spells that they can remove. Now, there's always been a bit of an irk of mine with regards to priests, that you've got 2 different spells you have to cast there. Particularly relevant when you're facing DKs, of course, because of the diseases and magics they can put on you with things like Chains of Ice and whatnot. But can't grumble too much about stated Disc Priests. If you've got a good peeler, you're in a pretty good way. If you play your class semi-decent, you can have quite a bit of fun. I'm quite fortunate that I've got the Heroic Spine Trinket, which makes a huge difference to mana. But you do have, you have some fairly good stuff at your disposal. Psychic Scream was obviously a powerful spell that you have to, what's what they call Fear Bomb, to dispel, to fear mob people. Of course, you will quite regularly come across groups like this where there were pocket healers on our enemy team. And of course, Psychic Scream, which is effectively your gap giver when you're being chained. By melees, it's nullified quite a lot if there's a dispeller nearby, and of course most classes have their own ways of breaking out of it. Warriors, Berserker Rage, which is a shorter cooldown than Psychic Scream, or I should say, with the 10 seconds that Berserker Rage lasts, it is less than Psychic Scream, so a Warrior will always be on you. A DK will always be on you, especially if they're undead, because of Anti-Magic Shell, Lichborn, Trinket, Will of the Forsaken. Basically, you need peels, is basically what I'm saying. Now, this is an interesting segment of the fight. We were attempting to return the flag, and it just so happens that the Horde returned their flag just a little bit before us, and you get that little bug where even though the Horde fellow here stood on the flag, it didn't actually get returned, so my Warlock friend picked it up, and up he came. I kind of should have inspected him here to see what gear he had, and maybe could have taken the flag off him. I'm cataclysmic geared, apart from my weapon, which is the Warmaster staff and the trinket of which I spoke earlier. I could have checked this Warlock to just see what gear he was wearing, because what happens next is we encounter a shaman and a warrior in the tunnel, healer shaman, and in the space of a few seconds my Warlock buddy gets blown up here. I didn't trinket the initial CC because I assumed my Warlock could stay up long enough. Obviously I gave him Power Infusion, as you can see there, but as you can see, boom, 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 he's dead very, very quickly. I tried to trinket and grab the flag, but failed miserably, but I'm pretty sure there was a resilience issue there, seeing as that warrior basically ganked the Warlock in about 3 shots, so I don't think that's the kind of thing that would happen if somebody was semi-decent resilience. So, off we went to go and retrieve the flag again. There's the next little bit of, the next little bit of this video is basically the kind of thing that happens with a lot of flag carriers. Now, if you're a healer, the most frustrating thing that can happen to you when you're trying to heal is the person taking the damage, inevitably the flag carrier, runs out of range. Now, you can understand the logic and mentality of somebody who's got the flag and they just want to run as fast as they can towards the the safety of your flag room. But when you're in a group like this and the healers are getting in focus, as you can see myself, and there's a resto shaman here who's on my team, when you're getting focused, you're inevitably slowed a lot of the time, and there's absolutely no way you can keep up with a flag carrier. So it's important that flag carriers out there be aware of where your healers are. You're much better off staying in their range than running off on your own and probably getting ganked by the one horde who runs off after you and ganks you back as you're running off. If you stay in range of your healers and you help clear away some DPS on your way and stay as a team, you're more likely to survive, and you're more likely to live to fight another day and keep the flag and maybe capture a score. So yeah, as I mentioned, the team we were facing had a sort of triple, quadruple melee kind of cleave thing going on, so it was interesting to try and keep my mate out with some leap of faith action and some power infusions on him so he could give himself some buffs and all this kind of stuff. But as you can see, the flag carrier came upon us then. Now he could have helped us and taken out one or two of these DPS. As you can see, most of the alliance are in this vicinity, but he kind of ran off on his own, and the two hordes which rezzed in the graveyard, off they went, followed him and ganked him. That enabled the horde team we're facing here to get the gank, to get the capture. As you can see, I spent quite a lot of time Cyclone here. What a lovely spell Cyclone is. It's interesting to note it's one of the few CCs, or the only CC that Bubble doesn't remove. So I remember I used to play my paladin quite a lot and used to get very infuriated by the powerfulness of Cyclone. You can trinket it, but a lot of other things that would normally break or CC don't break Cyclone. It's one of those imber powerful spells that's probably the reason why at the very start of this content, say a Feral Druid was particularly good. But yeah, basically what happened there, our flag carrier ran off, didn't kind of stay with us, and unfortunately got killed, and it meant we had an uphill task to try and win this. It's interesting to note, I quickly pop up the meters there. As I mentioned, I joined this BG late, I think about 8 minutes had gone. But one of my gripes about Disc Priests with regards to the meters, which like them or loathe them, they are looked upon by people. The fact is, your absorbs don't count in the healing meters at the end of the BG, which is a bit of a bummer. You can work particularly hard keeping people up with, strategically placed shields and aegises, and you get to the healing meters at the end, it looks like you've done bugger all because you're third or fourth after these Resto Shaman Holy Paladins who have the actual raw healing throughputs, which shows on those meters. Now, my point would be, whether it's a shield or whether it's an outright heal, that you're giving that person HP that they didn't have. A shield which absorbs its full amount, or even a part of its amount, is an effective heal. It's an absorption, it's a mitigation, but that is health that person wouldn't have had if they didn't have that shield on them. So I think, personally, absorbs should be counted in the healing meter. On my heal bot at the bottom, as you can see, it is, and there's about a 2/2.5 million discrepancy in healing from what the battleground meter shows to what my heal bot meter shows. As anybody who plays PvP will tell you, it's not necessarily relevant how much healing you do, it's the tactics of the BG that are important, and I stand by that wholeheartedly, but it's just nice to see a more accurate representation of exactly what you've done in the BG. Along those lines, maybe it'd be nice if the meters showed interrupts and dispels, a bit like you can on your recount. I think that'd be quite a nice addition to the meters at the end of the BG. I know a lot of people look at them, I think they're quite important. Yeah, that's just my 2 pence worth. So yeah, this DK here, he'd been on me quite a bit. He had, I don't know, he obviously doesn't like priests, he certainly doesn't like me, and he decided to stay on me for quite a while. So when I was just going around dispelling and putting renews and prayer mendings and powered shields out there. But when we do eventually get the upper hand on these chaps, it's a nice moment to maybe give them a high five or something. These two that are fighting me here, I'm trying to get some dupes out, so I'm going to force some fake casts. Again, DK very well played there, leap of death gripping me out of my power barrier, and also mitigating quite a lot of the effectiveness of inner focus because of the fact that it interrupts your cast. I mean, inner focus being nullifying or stopping you being interrupted. If a skillful Death Knight steps away and death grips you when your cast is about to finish its duration, that's a form of interrupt that can get through inner focus. Things such as cyclones and any stun are also other ways that you'd look to stop a priest during that part of their repertoire of defensive cooldowns. It's interesting. This is the point where I give him a little bit of acknowledgement to his skills by smiling, considering he was so intent on killing me and he actually failed. It's quite nice to smile and smirk at him. But the team we were facing here were quite a good team. Admittedly, they were obviously on some sort of vent, 3 or 4 melee. If somebody shouts on vent, go for priest. Normally means they're going to get a kill or cause a lot of trouble, and it can make a big difference. So you don't normally get that in these sort of random BGs, but this specific one, as I mentioned, had kind of that element to it. And try as we might to retrieve a flag, because of course it would only take one flag for us to win here. If you capture the last flag and it's a draw in a BG, then the team with the last capture are the victors. So it's still worth trying. Even if you are a flag down, you'll quite often get people in BG chat putting "let them win" if they get the first capture. It can be quite frustrating because it, as I said, it's just one flag. It's still just one flag away from winning. So keep your heads up and keep trying. I think the BG, the Catechism PvP content was quite interesting. At the very start, it was terrible. It kind of finished a little bit too much towards the Gangfest. I'd like to see PvP be much more skill orientated. Don't get me wrong, the higher level, the niche top end players are of course highly skilled, and it does require a lot more than just ganking, but a lot of PvP can be down to pop cooldowns, and whoever's got their cooldowns up is basically either going to die or get a kill or whatever. So it would be nice if there was more of a balance to how PvP worked, especially from a healing to DPS perspective. Obviously I don't want it so much as healers being invincible, but it would be nice that there's a balance brought to interrupts. I personally think the balance would be along the lines of, if an interrupt is duped, because that's quite a skill to have as a caster, there should be some sort of benefit or some sort of punishment placed on the person who you've just duped. Interrupts being a 10-second cooldown is a very, very short cooldown. So I think maybe if they miss an interrupt, then the cooldown goes to 20 seconds or something along those lines would be a fair trade-off. Maybe if they successfully interrupt you and you're locked out of your school for around about 6 seconds, you're going to die basically, especially if they chain it together with their stun or another one of their CCs. So it would be nice that the skill of forcing an interrupt to a fake cast is rewarded, other than in 8-9 seconds time that cooldown, that interrupt is going to be back off and they can interrupt you again. So another 2 pence worth of LandroeGaming there. As I said, I'm not a hugely skilled PvPer. I go in there and have fun. I know my class, and that will get you so far in PvP. I enjoy playing PvP. I really enjoy going in there and healing and chucking around some dispels. I don't enjoy losing though. We actually lost this little look there at just how much damage and healing was done. Again, the healing is interesting because of the fact that you heal actually so much more than what the battleground meters tell you that you've healed, and things like interrupts and dispels, which are equally important as pure healing and DPS, is also very, very important. So it'll be good for those meters to show that. I don't think it'd take much more coding for Blizzard to incorporate that into the proceedings. But we tried here. As a healer, you're limited in so much as to what you can do. I mean, I can't go and try and return a flag on my own. I can't stand in the middle and gank. I have to rely on the people that I've chosen to heal to do the right thing and just follow them around, try and keep them up and hope that things work out. I quite like going into BGs with 1 or 2 friends, but more often than not I end up just going in on my own and just meeting some people from cross realms. As you can see, we've got some Salfang people in here, As I said, I think it seemed like there was two kind of like pre-made type things going on. And it was the Kazakh team that won the day here. 2 Shaman healers, obviously very important. 4 melees, gotta love that. And they got that lucky kill, lucky capture early on in the encounter, when all it took was a flag carrier to run away from the healers. Flags returned, and that ends the BG like that. So, hope you enjoyed that BG. I'm going to start doing more of these. That was quite good fun. Thank you for viewing. Landroe out.